Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 3. Now, over the weekend at Pallyfest, which is like an event that runs over a week or two with different panels from different TV shows and I think some other stuff like that, we had a DC TV panel. Well, actually, it was like a CW DC TV panel because there was no Gotham on this panel, but yeah. They had Katie Lotz and Brandon Routh from Legends, Melissa Benoist and David Harewood from Supergirl, Stephen Amell and David Ramsey from Arrow, and lastly, Grant Gustin and Candice Patton from The Flash. Now, they didn't really reveal too much information as they wouldn't want to give too much away close to the end of the seasons of each of the TV shows. The two biggest reveals, though, would have to have been from The Flash, though. Which isn't too surprising, seeing the other shows sort of have had their big reveals and big moments out in the open now. The first of these reveals from The Flash was centered around the Season 4 villain. So yeah, Season 4. Season 3's not even over, and they're talking about Season 4. So in Seasons 1, 2, and now 3, we have had speedsters as the big bads for The Flash. But that is about to be changed as they confirmed that next season will in fact have a non-speedster villain as the big bad. Some of you may be able to guess who I think it could be, but I will leave that for another video as it isn't like the priority or most important thing to cover at the current moment. So yeah, we'll leave it till next weekend or sometime in the next 2 weeks. The second thing that was revealed by the team behind The Flash at Pallyfest was actually the title of episode 19 of this season. That title is actually The Once and Future Flash. Okay, now I know some of you might be thinking to yourself, okay, that's cool I guess, Pagey, but why is it such a big deal? Well, I guess the fact that it has Future Flash in the title is pretty cool, but the thing that is most interesting about this episode title is the fact that it is the same name as an issue of the Flash comics from the early 1990s when Wally West was the Flash. So in the issues beforehand, leading up to the issue that's actually entitled The Once and Future Flash, we saw Barry Allen miraculously return after being killed in the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So Wally was now teamed up with Barry fighting crime and living it up as a superhero. But Wally did have suspicions around Barry's return. And those suspicions that Wally was having were sort of warranted as it is actually revealed that it wasn't Barry at all. It was Eobard Thawne who had gotten surgery, plastic surgery, to make himself look like Barry and even gave himself powers after idolizing Barry. And this is when he came back to the 20th century to actually meet his hero, the Flash, and that being Barry Allen, but he arrived after Barry's death. But it is actually what happens next, which really gets everything moving and a bit chaotic. Eobard actually goes to the Flash Museum, which we obviously don't have in the show yet. But yeah, Eobard goes to the Flash Museum, and it is here that he actually learns the not so good news in regards to his future. He is supposed to become a villain, Barry Allen's rival, and eventually be killed by his hero. So yeah, if you didn't know, in the comics, Barry actually kills Eobard Thawne and then actually ends up on trial for it, which they did sort of tease at the end, in the season 1 finale, might I say, when you see Barry in jail and he is the one in there, he isn't the visitor. So we might get that in a later season, you never know, we might get it next season, Reverse Flash dies or something, who knows. But due to Eobard learning all this information, he sort of goes crazy and actually legitimately thinks that he is Barry Allen. And that's until he actually comes back to reality and comes to the conclusion that the only way to avoid that death from Barry Allen was to stay back in the 20th century and actually just become Barry Allen. Because as I said, he looked exactly like him. Wally thought he was Barry. Now this story actually ends with Wally tricking Eobard into going back to the future by making Eobard think that he was going to go to the future himself and kill Eobard as a baby. Now, I have said earlier this season, it wouldn't surprise me if they do something along those lines to trick Savitar, either that getting him back into the Speed Force, or getting him stuck in the Speed Force again, or, sending him somewhere where he won't come back, something along those lines. But is this episode title just an Easter egg or reference to the comic book issue? Or is it a legitimate thing to look at, as it may be inspiration and, even a point of reference for events that may occur during this episode, obviously that being episode 19. They didn't reveal any details about the episode apart from one, which is a pretty big one, I guess, and that is that Barry will be going back to the future, that future where Iris is murdered by Savitar. And he is going to physically be there, like we saw in episode 9 when he, got thrown there by the Philosopher's Stone by accident.
Don't! Please, don't do this.
Now, finally, I am free of you.
So it won't be like one of those Cisco vibes by the sounds of it that we've seen a couple of times this season already, where they're just walking around the same situation. Some little things might be different, but Barry's actually going to physically be there, so he could walk up to the future version of the Flash, tap him on the shoulder and go, "Yo, we sort of look the same." Now, you might be able to tell of an immediate difference already between the two things. In the comic issue, Reverse Flash was in the past and discovering things, while in the TV episode, Barry will be in the future and discovering things. But what I do think is going to be like the big similarity between the events in the comic issue and what could potentially occur in the episode on TV actually involves Savitar seeing past events leading up to his creation. Stuff that he wouldn't have seen happen, but were vital to him becoming who he is. But the similarity with Barry is still strong with Reverse Flash from the comic, as he will still be learning vital information about his future, just like Reverse Flash did. Obviously, it's just that Reverse Flash's future is technically in the past because he travels back in time in the future, if that makes sense. And Barry's future is just normal. It's in the next couple of months. Now, there is big speculation that this could be the episode that Savitar's identity is revealed, or we get a massive hint at who it is. And that's just because they really told everyone the episode title. They're trying to get everyone excited. They're probably trying to get people researching it and doing videos like this to get people excited for it. So this makes me think that Savitar's identity will either be revealed in this episode, or we're going to get a lot of setup and some massive clues as to who it could be. But I'm not going to say whether I think it's 100% going to be revealed this episode, but I would not be surprised if it is. Just because Savitar will be involved, because Barry's going to that future time where Savitar's, trying to kill Iris. Now, there is actually some other stuff happening throughout this episode, which I have known for about a week now, but I'm only really bringing it up now as there was a pretty big reason to talk about this episode because, they revealed the title. The first of these other things is that Tom Cavanaugh will actually be directing this episode, who you should all know is the guy who plays all the different versions of Harrison Wells. Now, if you were a fan of Smallville, you may know that the cast on that show directed a decent amount of some of the episodes. Tom Welling, who played Clark Kent or Superman, did a few, and I think nowadays he actually sees himself as more of a director or producer rather than an actor, so he sort of got that start on Smallville. So I wouldn't be surprised if more cast members have a crack at it, not only from The Flash, but the other CW DC shows as well. Like, I've heard rumours that Stephen Amell from Arrow might, direct an episode of Arrow down the line. Now, this second thing I'm about to say may be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled in the slightest, please, just leave the video now if you want to. So there's your warning. Mirror Master and the Top will be back in this episode. So I guess the big question around this and them appearing in the episode, is it something for Team Flash to deal with while Barry is in the future? Because you have to think Barry's the only one going to that future, it's not anyone else. So if we're going to spend the whole episode with Barry, then I guess they would be in the future. But if we are going to cut back to, the present time, if you want to call it that, with the rest of Team Flash, Mirror Master and Top could escape, and they're like the villains for the episode, just for some of the other characters to deal with. Or as I just sort of said then, they could be on the loose in the future and Barry has to take them on, maybe not quickly, like they could be a big villain that he has to take on there. Maybe Savitar's using them to, help them or something, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not too sure where they're placed in this episode, whether they're going to be, a big part of it in the future, or they're just going to be something for the rest of Team Flash in the present, if you want to call it that, and it's just something for them to deal with. But they are in the episode, so that's definitely something that's happening. But thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like on it just to show your support. Let me know in the comments section below, what do you think of all of this? Do you think there's going to be very similar things happening from the comic issue to the TV episode? Or do you think it's more just an Easter egg or a reference? Or there might be like 1 or 2 moments from the episode which are like inspired by that comic issue? Just leave all of your opinions in the comments section below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.